time to get interactive and add a form so that we can add posts ourselves. Right now, our app isn't doing anything more than displaying the information that's already in our database. Now we want to be able to send a request from our client that will update the database and add a new post. First thing we need to do is create a form that will allow us to do this. So I'm going to create inside of my views a new file called add post. And I'm going to copy and paste directly from the workshop text. Let's take a look at what we have here. So we have an HTML page, just like the rest of them, but this one has a form inside of it. It has an input for name, an input for title, and an input for content. And now we'll see here this form has a method associated with it called post and an action /posts. And our button has type of submit. What this means is that forms have a baked-in functionality that is part of HTML that when we click on this button, because it has a type submit, it's going to submit our form. And when it submits the form, it's going to send a request to our server that has a method of post and a URL of /posts. So before we even start, we know that in our routes, we're going to need an additional endpoint that is router.posts, so because we know it'll have a post method. Since this is already mounted on posts, which we did in app.js, it'll just be a /. Let's go ahead and create our callback. We know we'll be communicating with the database, so I'm going to go ahead and make it async, rec, res, and next. And inside here, we will be able to take the data that our form is sending and use it to insert new data into my database. The data that we're going to have is going to be these three inputs, my input, in the text area, and the property that I'm going to use to grab these data will be this name attribute on each of these inputs. So I have name, title, name, and name content. When this request is sent, this post request, it's going to have these data in something called the body. And when it's coming from a form, this body is called URL encoded. Express does not have a way built in to parse these data. We're going to just get undefined if we try to access the data sent by our post directly. So what we need to do is install another library. Oh, it looks like I did again. Let's go ahead and fix this before I move on. All right, let's install body parser, which is a tried and true NPM package that will allow us to parse any body coming in. It has many different kinds of body formats that it can parse. For a form, it's going to be coming in as URL encoded. So let's make some middleware that can parse the body from any request coming in. So I'll need to import the body parser. And then after my static here, I'm going to set up some middleware. So app.use, and I'm going to say body parser. And I'm going to tell it that the data coming in is going to be URL encoded, meaning that it's coming from a form. So this is going to take that form data and make it into an object and attach that object to my request as rec.body. This takes an additional argument called extended, which is going to determine what kinds of data are allowed in that object that it creates. I'm going to say extended is true, which means that the data can be any type. The first thing I'm going to do is let's just console log out rec.body to see if it's working. And since this isn't async, let's get rid of this for now. And there's one more route that we need. We need a route that's going to give us the add page HTML. So if I say router.get, and this is going to be /post/add. We need to render our new add post HTML. So this will be posts add. rec res next, and we'll res that send my add post function. It does not seem to like that, so let's figure out. So some of you might have run into this same error. It's saying that this ID is not an integer, because what happened is I tried to send a GET request to /add. It didn't hit /add, it hit my GET request, my GET middleware for a specific post. Because this ID, there's nothing that says up here that this needs to be a number. It doesn't know that. It's just looking for any dynamic content after /post. And so it's trying to find a post with the ID of add, which isn't going to work, right? So let's copy this and make sure that it's moved above my middleware to get a specific post. And this will be for /posts /add. Now let's try it again. Add post is not defined. Let's make sure that I called it. Yep, got a typo there. Let's try again. And there is my form. Now when I type some things in here, so I'll say Heron, hello world. Let's make this a little bigger. And a howdy. So I'm going to say submit. But I do get my rec.body console logged out, which is great. So I have successfully taken my data that is coming in as the request body from my form. It's going through my body parser middleware and being converted into a JavaScript object and attached to my rec.body, which I'm console logging out here.